Need to get this all off my chest. I honestly don't even know where to start. Apologies that it's a long one, but I needed to provide context for why I have stayed in this relationship, and get it all down on paper to validate and justify why I'm feeling so drained, and hopefully that I'm not to blame for what I'm experiencing. TLDR, I'm 37, suspected ADHD, am in a very toxic marriage where my wife, F30, OCD and anxiety DX, is verbally/emotionally abusive and controlling. We have a daughter, for F, and I honestly don't know what to do. I know some of our traits clash, but does it warrant her behavior and actions towards me, even though I suspect it is learned behavior from her mother? Here we go. Growing up, I was always the quiet, sensitive, introverted, geeky/sporty type who was more into books, games, hill walking, kayaking and climbing than the usual football/team-based pursuits. I never had a girlfriend throughout my teenage years, even after joining the army at 19. I grew up with 90% of my wider family in the same town, so we were always visiting on weekends, staying over etc., holidaying together, and this instilled a core belief in me about maintaining good relationships with grandparents, aunts and uncles if I were to have a family of my own. Joining up got me out of my shell a bit, and I posted to Germany, which was amazing, but I still struggled to interact with girls, or engage in any form of intimate relationship. This was exacerbated further when I was arrested on suspicion of rape, after a false accusation by a female soldier who lived in the next block to me. Whilst the case against me was eventually dropped, and I would never show it outwardly, my mental health was in the gutter and I struggled with the stigma of the arrest. So when I first met my wife-to-be in 2012, I thought my whole life had changed. We met through an army mate who was dating her older sister. There was a 7-year age difference between us, me being 25 and her being 18, but that didn't seem to faze either of us and we started dating. During that first year, I deployed for 7 months, so it was an LDR for a while and took some getting used to. She would often get in moods with me and not talk for days, and I'd end up apologizing over and over again for something I didn't even know I'd done to upset her. This should have been the first red flag, but having never experienced a proper relationship before, I didn't know any different. The relationship started to improve once I was back. She met my family, I met hers, and later that year her sister and my best mate got married and we felt like the perfect pair of couples. However, as the years went by, I would slowly change and it was noticed by my family and friends but not me. 2012, the year we met, was the last Christmas that I spent with family. After that we spent every Christmas with her parents or them with us, once we got our house. She said she would always spend Christmas with her family, and I could spend it with mine, but there was always this underlying tone that if I did, I was valuing time with my family over her, and it slowly embedded itself in me so much that I just couldn't make the decision to go. She wouldn't go and had to spend Christmas with her family, there was no compromise. When I posted back to the UK, she got into the closest university to where I was based, which was great for us meeting up. However, she expected me to visit every weekend and I was given the silent treatment or abusive messages if I went to visit family/friends at home. I spent 90% of my leave with her, and time with family and friends started to lessen. I thought this was normal in a relationship as I had nothing to compare it to. I remember a year or so into the relationship, she started saying my family were too involved in my life and my priorities were all wrong. I had my mum's name on my UK bank account while I was posted in Germany so she could assist with UK bills. I helped my siblings by letting them live in my house under the arrangement that they pay all the bills whilst I paid off mortgage. My parents not pushing us into university like her and sister were encouraged to do, instead there was a natural focus on getting a job, making money and work, rather than getting a uni degree. This started to raise tensions between members of my family and my GF, with me trying to negotiate between. My mum and granddad were concerned, stating that they weren't sure if she was right for me and that I was becoming more distant with other priorities. My mum even contacted my GF to say that she was not happy how our new relationship seemed to be impacting my relationships with my family. This made her flip, and basically started a 6/7 year rift between my whole family and her. I also started to learn about my GF's family dynamics too. Quite a volatile family that grew up, 4 of them, isolated in Germany from the rest of their family due to their work. My MIL is very loud, extremely influential and sometimes aggressive, quick to anger or get annoyed, and my FIL is very mild-mannered, almost docile. MIL runs the household and believes that the person who speaks the loudest gets what they want. I quickly realized this when arguments ensued between the girls and their mom, which often went on for days or weeks. Any two of them together was okay, but if all three girls were together, there was this constant environment of jealousy, one-upmanship, and a tit-for-tat mentality. If Hamael came to visit, there would be arguments how many days she would spend in each sister's house, etc., and they would spend loads of money on the girls, but it was never enough or was compared to the other. My Hamael is extremely influential over my wife and has basically presided over multiple life-changing events during our relationship/marriage. Came over for a weekend and planned the whole wedding for us. Suggested we buy my mate's house so I could get out the army and settle in NE England. It happened. Persuaded wife to buy a car outright with my inheritance money, while I was on a career course. It happened. Basically forced us into buying a new build house one weekend, which we were both not comfortable with. We ended up having to withdraw because we weren't happy, and lost half our £700 holding deposit. Planned when we should try conceiving for our daughter. Is now pressuring us to have another child just 1 month after my wife miscarried. My wife has also mentioned multiple instances during her childhood where Hamael was aggressive and violent, with things being thrown in the house or huge arguments and verbal abuse. She admitted that perhaps she reacts to things now as a result of her upbringing, but things haven't changed. I still believe Hamael holds a huge influence over my wife and her sister, and they are often afraid to go against her advice. They sometimes do and back each other up, but there always seems to be a 2v1 scenario at any given time. Anyway, we got engaged in 2015 and we decided to get out the army and settle in NE England, first house saga. My family were a bit skeptical and voiced concerns, but my wife took this as them not believing in me, wanting me to remain in the army. I tried for several job interviews and failed, whilst my fiancé got settled in a new job after finishing uni, and I eventually made the decision to sign back on. She supported this initially, but it continues to be brought up in arguments by her and Hamael, who despises the army, despite her and both her daughters marrying a soldier. After we got married in 2017 and officially moved in together, I thought things would settle as we learned to live with each other, but I was wrong. This was also the point where I had 2 drink-related incidents that resulted in her stopping me drinking. The first was me being an idiot and wanting to stay out really late with friends who I hadn't seen in a couple years at an army event while she was at home. We had literally moved into our married quarter about 2 weeks prior, so there was still quite a lot to do with the house. But I did it anyway because I needed a bit of stress release. It was a dick move and I was in the doghouse for that one. The second one, we were both drinking at a friend's house and I got quite drunk, and admit that I was a bit of a dick. She wanted me to go home, I wanted to stay and told her I'd do what I wanted. Later that evening, I was unsurprisingly sick in the downstairs toilet. When I tried to go be sick again upstairs, she tried to stop me. She wanted me to be sick downstairs again to avoid bleaching 2 toilets. But I couldn't make it downstairs and she tried to stop me physically by pushing and grabbing me. I was about to throw up, so I grabbed her arm, shouted "Get off me," threw it back off me. She says I twisted it, but I don't think it was that hard, then was sick. She grabbed her arm and said I had bruised her, but I don't think I did. I have never been aggressive in my life, sober or drunk, ever. I am the get loud and funny then fall asleep drunk, so this was extremely out of character for me. I haven't really drank since that incident. She actively tells me to not drink if I go out, and I feel like I have to comply to avoid arguments. But it impacts my feelings, ability to even enjoy work, social evenings/events, etc. when everyone else is drinking, and more so when she gives me time limits to be back by. Her excuse for this is that if she gets woken within the first hour of going to sleep, she can't get back to sleep for hours. So whenever I go out for a social event/see a friend, I have to be back by 10 p.m. or 11 p.m. if a military function is. These are set time events with certain protocols in place. I feel like this is her trying to control and hold influence over me and not to do with, because she's early/can't get back to sleep. 2020 onwards. In 2020 our beautiful daughter was born, and again I thought it would eventually improve things, relatives visiting, etc., and that my wife would mature, develop a maternal understanding, etc., but it didn't. Our daughter was born during the COVID pandemic, and this was a blessing and curse. I had an excuse to use for why family couldn't visit, but it really impacted my relationship with them, and played into my wife's desire for them not to be overly involved. More recently my wife has been diagnosed with OCD and anxiety, which often overwhelms her, and there are several things that trigger her, electrical switches, door locks, ovens, and hair straighteners, etc.